I'm Mary Pat Palmer at the Philo School of Herbal Energetics, and today we're making hydrosols, which are often known as floral waters, but in fact, because they incorporate essential oil, they may come from other parts of the plant. It may not just be a floral water, it may actually be taking essential oil from the leaves or the twigs or other parts of the plant. But that's what we're working on today. And the hydrosols, I was fortunate enough to get a beautiful hammered copper still a couple of years ago. And that set me off in a whole new direction. I think that the hydrosols have two very, very important functions. One is that they contain no alcohol. They are simply water and plant matter, but they are preserved by the acids in the plant themselves, and they don't need alcohol to preserve them. So they have a real, I think, a very important medicinal function rather than just a kind of cosmetic function that they've been known for in the past. And when I'm making a hydrosol, I start with, I think I should use a specific hydrosol in order to talk about the process. So I would start by, let's say, with roses. And at this point in time, I want to make a white rose. And I want to make a white rose because I'm interested in the specific qualities of the white rose as differentiated from a red or salmon or other roses. So I have taken a particular, just one particular species of rose, and I go out and I cut these roses and put them in the kettle of my still, of the Portuguese still. And I fill that up about 2/3 of the way with rose petals and the core of the rose as well. And then I add to that 1.5 gallons, which is 3 of these half gallons. I add 3 of these of filtered water that I filter. I've used both, but I found that the filtered water works better than the unfiltered. So I'll add 1.5 gallons of the filtered water, and I turn on my camp stove outside and under the kettle. And the kettle is kind of shaped like a mosque, and it has a inverted funnel that comes down and goes into the cup. And if you know Joan Baez's song, "Get you a copper kettle, get you a copper coil," this is what we're talking about. So the other, of course, popular use of a still is to make alcohol, but in this case we're not. So the condensation process, of course, the steam from the petals is rising up and into the spout and coming down into the cup. And this needs to be, the cup is there to hold cold water so that the cold water helps to condense the steam and the liquid that's coming through. And that then goes into a 1/2 gallon jar. That's how I make them. And so and it takes about 1.5 hours on my still to get about 1/2 gallon. So out of that 1.5 gallons of water, I'll get about 1/2 gallon of the hydrosol itself. And then I think the first thing I do when the hydrosol is done is I add a label to it, because without a label and the date, you don't really know. So I'm putting white rose hydrosol. And in addition, with this hydrosol, I will put the species of this particular white rose on the label. So this is the white rose hydrosol, and I let them sit with the cap on after they're made for a couple of days. And this one is not necessarily as much for the fragrance as for the sort of psychological medicinal qualities. A hydrosol is 30 to 40% stronger than a tea. So it's not an essential oil, but the essential oil is distributed evenly throughout the water That's its menstruum. So when I use it, I am primarily, this is actually a white rose hydrosol, part of this, one of this that I've put into a smaller spray bottle. And this is one that I'll use mostly in the morning. They're used often as toners because of the acid. It's the acidic quality to the plant from the hydrosol. But I'm looking for a particular quality that I'm going to find in the different roses. So different roses have a different, even to the color, have a different personality, should we say. They have a different profile to them. The white rose is commonly thought of as the peace rose. And so what I'm looking for is how can I use this medicinally? There are many medicinal uses of roses and the rose family, primarily for their cooling properties. They're often used in respiratory problems and heat problems. They are used a lot in cosmetics for the skin. They're used many, many different ways. But how do I think of them as someone who was a psychotherapist and who's now an herbalist? How do I think of them in how I will use them with people as a healing modality, as a medicinal modality? So one of the ways certainly has to do with it being a cooling agent. That's important. And hydrating. So I would be using it even more in the summer, but I would use it in winter hot rooms. And then as far as the psychological, this, from what I can determine, the qualities of this particular species of white rose have to do with a feeling of peace, which seems to be quite, I've been using this on different people, so I know something about and also doing plant journeys with different people with this particular flower. And it has something to do with the uncovering of layers, so that in using this particular hydrosol, we would be looking to open the layers of ourselves. We would be looking also, it has something to do with water. It has something to do with being contained in water, being near the ocean, because I live near the ocean, this grows near the ocean, so that there is also a feeling, an oceanic feeling of calm emotions in this as well. So these are qualities that I'm looking for when I'm looking to work with people.